The restroom is filthy. Go clean it.
Excuse me. The catering staff is usually in the other hall.
That silence told me everything.
Dr. Holloway, should I remove them from your hotel?
Not yet. Let them finish exposing themselves.
Sign it. Don't embarrass me.
The first time my fiancé's mother called me help, I was standing inside a hotel I secretly owned. She did not whisper it. She said it loudly enough for the women around her to hear, then lift her champagne glass, and smiled as though humiliated me were part of the evening's entertainment. "Excuse me," she said, waving two manicured fingers in my direction. "The ladies' restroom is out of hand. Go find someone to clean it." A few guests turned to look at me. Some laughed behind their glasses. My name is Dr. Camille Holloway. I was 39 years old, the founder of Holloway Capital Group, and the majority owner of the St. Aurelia Hotel in downtown Atlanta. I controlled investments in commercial real estate, medical technology, logistics, and Newell Energy. My company employed more than 11,000 people across 6 states. But that night, I wore a plain black dress, no visible jewelry, and my natural hair pulled into low bun. To Evelyn Beaumont, that meant I could not possibly belong in the room. She had never asked what I did for a living. She had only looked at my dark skin, my simple clothes, and the quiet way I carried myself, and decided that I was beneath her. What Evelyn did not know was that the ballroom floor beneath her designer heels belonged to me. The chandeliers above her head belonged to me. The wine in her glass had been purchased by my hospitality division. Even the velvet rope she had walked past belonged to a company whose controlling shares sat inside a trust bearing my name. I could have corrected her. I could have told her exactly who I was. Instead, I smiled. "The restroom is on the second floor," he said calmly. "I'll make sure the problem is handled." Evelyn gave me a satisfied nod. "That's better." Then she turned back to her friends. My fiancé, Preston Beaumont, stood less than 10 feet away. He heard everything. He saw his mother mistake the woman he planned to marry for a hotel employee. And he said nothing. That silence told me more than any insult ever could. Preston and I had been together for nearly 3 years. He was handsome, polished, and ambitious, with the kind of smile that made people trust him before he had earned it. He came from an old Atlanta family that had once owned banks, department stores, and half a dozen historic properties across Georgia. The Beaumont name still opened doors. The money behind it, however, had mostly disappeared. Preston never told people that part. His father had made reckless investments. His older brother had drained family accounts to cover gambling debts. Evelyn had sold 2 properties to maintain the illusion that the Beaumont family was still wealthy. They had the name. I had the money. Preston knew I was successful, but he did not know the full scale of my wealth. When we met, I had introduced myself as an investment consultant. It was not a lie. I simply did not explain that the companies I advised were usually companies I owned. I had learned early that money tracked admiration, fast, and character attracted loyalty. I want a man who loved Camille, not Dr. Holloway, the billionaire whose name appeared in financial magazines. For a while, I believed Preston was that man. He brought me coffee during long workdays. He remembered my late father's birthday. He listened when I talked about growing up on the west side of Atlanta, raised by a single mother who worked night shifts as a respiratory therapist. He told me he admired that I had built a career without family connections. Then he proposed. The moment I accepted, something in him changed. He began asking more questions about my accounts. He jested that I sell my modest house and move into the Beaumont family estate. He want our wedding photograph by national magazines. He pushed me to invest in a luxury development called Beaumont Square, a project he claimed would restore his family's legacy. Whenever I asked to see the financial documents, he told me not to worry. "We're going to be husband and wife," he would say. "You have to trust me." Trust is not the absence of questions. It is the confidence that honest questions will receive honest answers. Preston never gave me honest answers. The event at the St. Aurelia was supposed to be a celebration of our engagement and the official launch of Beaumont Square. Preston had invited investors, politicians, business leaders, and Atlanta's social elite. He had also invited a woman named Sienna Cole. Was 28, beautiful, and professionally ambitious. She worked as the Beaumont family's public relations director. She was always near Preston, adjusting his tie, touching his arm, whispering into his ear. Every time I asked about her, he laughed. "She's an employee, Camille." I had already discovered that she was much more than that. 3 weeks before the gala, my security director brought me photographs of Preston's Sienna's condominium after midnight. 2 weeks before the gala, my legal team found a draft marriage agreement on Preston's laptop. It included a clause that would transfer control of my investment accounts to a holding company managed by him if I became medically incapacitated. 1 week before the gala, my forensic accountants discovered that Beaumont Square did not exist as a legitimate development. It was a financial trap. Preston planned to convince me to invest $75 million into a shell company. The money would then be transferred into foreign accounts controlled by him, Evelyn, and Preston's brother. After our wedding, they intended to use the marriage agreement to gain influence over the rest of my assets. They believed I was worth perhaps $20 or $30 million. They had no idea the real number was closer to $3 billion. I did not confront him. Confronting a liar too early only teaches him where his story is weak. I wanted the truth exposed in a room where no Beaumont could rewrite it. So I allowed the gala to continue. I watched Evelyn introduce Sienna to a group of wealthy women as the kind of woman Preston should have chosen. I watched Preston smile when one of his friends asked why he was marrying a woman who dressed like a school administrator. I watched his brother, Grant, tell an investor that I was useful but socially replaceable. Every insult was recorded. The St. Aurelia had one of the most advanced security systems in the city. That system belonged to me too. At 9 o'clock, Preston walked on the ballroom stage. The lights dimmed. A massive screen displayed a gold rendering of Beaumont Square, complete with luxury apartments, private gardens, and high-end retail stores. None of it was real. Preston stood beneath the Beaumont family crest and smiled at the crowd. "Tonight marks the return of a legacy," he announced. "For generations, my family helped shape this city. Beaumont Square will continue that tradition." The audience applauded. I stood near the back of the ballroom. Preston continued talking about loyalty, vision, and family. Then he invited me onto the stage. "Camille," he said, extending his hand. "Come stand beside your future husband." I walked forward slowly. The whispers began immediately. "That's his fiancé? I thought she worked here. She looks older than him." Preston kissed my cheek when I reached the stage. His lips felt cold. Then he turned toward the crowd. "My future wife has agreed to make the first major private investment in Beaumont Square." That was the first time he had publicly announced my supposed investment. The audience applauded again. I looked at him. I agreed. His smile tightened. He lowered his voice. "Don't embarrass me." There it was. Not a request. A warning. Preston turned back to crowd and lifted a folder from the podium. All Camille needs to do is sign. Tonight, we officially begin a new chapter for Atlanta. A staff member brought a table onto the stage. The contract was placed in front of me. Evelyn stood near the front row, smiling like a queen preparing to reclaim her throne. Sienna stood beside her in a silver gown. They were not waiting for a business transaction. They were waiting for me to surrender. Preston handed me a pen. "Sign it," he whispered. I looked down at the document. The amount was $75 million. The Seething Company was controlled through 3 shell corporations, exactly as my investigator had discovered. I placed the pen on the table. "I have one question," I said. Preston's jaw tightened. "What question?" "Why does Beaumont Square's primary holding company share an address with Sienna Cole's condominium?" The room went quiet. Sienna's smile disappeared. Preston stared at me. "I don't know what you're talking about." I looked toward the screen behind us. "Then perhaps the documents will explain it better." The architectural rendering vanished. A corporate registration forward in its place. The company address was highlighted. Second document appeared showing Sienna as an authorized representative. Then came bank transfers from Beaumont family accounts. Then photographs of Preston entering her building at night. A wave of shocked whispers moved through the ballroom. Preston stepped toward the technician's booth. "Turn that off." No one moved. The hotel employee had been instructed to follow my orders, not his. Evelyn rose from her seat. "This is outrageous." I turned toward her. "No, Evelyn, outrageous was asking the owner of this hotel to clean your restroom." The entire ballroom froze. Preston looked at me as if I had spoken in another language. Evelyn laughed. "The owner?" "Yes." I reached for the microphone. "My name is Dr. Camille Holloway. Through Holloway Hospitality Holdings, I own 82% of the St. Aurelia Hotel." Several people in the crowd gasped. I continued. "I am also the founder and chief executive officer of Holloway Capital Group." This time, the reaction was louder. People knew that name. Holloway Capital was one of the largest black-owned private investment firms in the country. Business magazines had reported on the company for years, but I rarely appeared in photographs. I had built my fortune quietly, allowing executives and division presidents to represent the company publicly. Preston's face drained of color. "You told me you were a consultant. I told you I worked in investment. You lied to me." "No, Preston. I allowed you to believe a successful black woman could only be as important as your imagination permitted." The screen changed again. A financial chart showed my ownership structure, properties, and major investments. The room was completely silent now. Every person who had laughed at my dress was suddenly studying it, as though simplicity itself were a symbol of power. Grant Beaumont pushed through the crowd. "This is some kind of trick." I looked at him. "You used my investment proposal as collateral to secure a $12 million bridge loan." Grant stopped moving. "That loan was approved yesterday," I said. "But the lender is a subsidiary of Holloway Capital." His eyes widened. "I own the debt." Grant's mouth opened, but no words came out. Looked toward Evelyn. "You sold the Beaumont family estate 6 months ago through a private transaction." Evelyn gripped the back of her chair. "That is none your business." The purchasing company was Magnolia Preservation Partners. She stared at me. I let the silence grow. "I own that company too." A murmur rolled through the audience. Preston stepped close to me. His voice became softer. "Camille, let's talk privately." "Why? You were comfortable discussing my money publicly." "I can explain everything." "You had 3 years to explain." He reached for my hand. I moved it away. Preston lowered his voice. I love you. Almost felt sorry for him. Not because he loved me, because he believed the sense still had value. I looked at the screen. A video began playing. It had been recorded inside Sienna's condominium. Preston sat on her couch with a glass of whiskey in his hand. Sienna was beside him. Evelyn's voice could be heard from across the room. Once Camille transfers the money, the wedding can still happen. Keep her happy until the accounts are connected. Sienna laughed. And after that? Preston smiled. After that, I'll decide how long I can tolerate being married to her. The Preston standing beside me watched the Preston on the screen destroy him. In the video, Grant asked whether I might resist signing the marriage agreement. Preston shrugged. She's desperate to belong. Women like Camille spend their whole lives trying to enter families like ours. The video ended. No one in the ballroom spoke. Preston's face had become rigid. Slow stepped away from Evelyn. Evelyn looked around the room, searching for allies. She found none. I faced Preston. You believed I was desperate to enter your family. He looked down. The truth is your family was desperate to enter my bank account. Few people in the audience laughed. Preston's humiliation was no longer private. It belonged to the same crowd he had invited to witness my surrender. He removed his microphone. Enjoy your performance, he said bitterly. But you cannot destroy the Beaumont name. I do not need to destroy it. I looked toward the rear doors. 2 federal investigators entered the ballroom with several uniformed officers. I only need to reveal what is already behind it. Grant tried to leave through a side exit. Security blocked him. Evelyn began shouting that the family was being targeted. Sienna started crying. Preston stood perfectly still. The lead investigator approached the stage and presented him with a warrant connected to wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. The room erupted. Cameras came out. Guests began recording. Reporters rushed forward. Preston looked at me one last time. You planned all of this. No, I planned it. I simply chose the audience. He was led away in handcuffs. Grant followed. Sienna collapsed in a chair when investigators informed her that her accounts had been frozen. Evelyn remained standing near the front row. For the first time that evening, she looked small. Not poor, not powerless. Small. The kind of small that money cannot hide. She walked toward the stage slowly. Camille, she said, surely we can handle this as a family. I stared at her. Earlier tonight, you thought I cleaned toilets. Her lips trembled. That was a mess and danding. No, it was an introduction. She looked around nervously. I did not know who you were. That is the point, Evelyn. You believed kindness was only required when someone had status. She lowered her voice. Please, the estate has belonged to my family for almost a century. The estate belongs to Magnolia Presif & Partners. You can't put me out of my home. I have no intention of putting you out tonight. Relief crossed her face. I continued. Your lease begins tomorrow. Her expression collapsed. What lease? The one charging market value for every room, every acre, and every structure on the property. You cannot do that. I already did. Evelyn stared at me as if she had never imagined consequence could wear a calm face. She turned and walked away without another word. The gala ended before midnight. By sunrise, footage of Preston's arrest had spread across the country. The story was irresistible, a fading dynasty, a fake real estate project, a cheating fiancé, and the quiet black woman they had mistaken for hotel staff. Reporters camped outside the St. Aurelia. Social media turned my final words to Preston into a slogan. You planned it, I chose the audience. Within 48 hours, every investor withdrew from Beaumont Square. The bridge loan went into default. Grant's creditors seized his remaining assets. Sienna accepted a plea agreement in exchange for testifying. Evelyn attempted to sell interviews, claiming that she had been manipulated by her sons. That strategy failed when another recording revealed her discussing how she planned to use my money to rebuild the family's social reputation. Preston spent 11 months awaiting trial. During that time, he wrote me 17 letters. The first blamed me. The second begged me. The third said he had made mistakes. By the 10th, he claimed he had truly loved me. I returned every letter unopened. A year later, Preston pleaded guilty to multiple federal charges. Grant received long sentence after investigators uncovered unrelated financial crimes. Evelyn moved out of the Beaumont estate when she could no longer afford the lease. I did not demolish the property. I turned it into the Holloway Center for Women in Business, a residential fellowship program for Black women building company in technology, medicine, construction, and finance. The ballroom where Evelyn once hosted society parties became a training center. The private library became a legal clinic. The East Wing became affordable housing for fellows and their children. On the day the center opened, my mother stood beside me on the front steps. She wore a blue suit and the same pearl earrings she had worn to my college graduation. She looked at the long line of young women entering the building. You want your name on this place? She asked. I smiled. For years, people like the Beaumonts put their names on buildings they did not deserve. I looked up at the new bronze letters above the entrance. It is time our daughters see names that tell them what is possible. My mother squeezed my hand. You always were stubborn. I learned from you. She laughed. No, baby, you took it further. Evening after the ceremony, I returned alone to the St. Aurelia. The ballroom was empty. The chandeliers glowed above polished floors. A young hotel employee was checking tables near the stage. She could not have been older than 22. When she saw me, she straightened immediately. Dr. Holloway, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were still here. You have nothing to apologize for. She smiled nervously. My mother watched the video from the gala. She said you taught those people a lesson. I looked around the room. I taught my one too. What lesson? That hiding your power can protect you. I paused. But sometimes revealing it protects everyone who comes after you. She nodded slowly. Before leaving, I walked on the stage where Preston had once handed me the pen. I remembered his smile, his warning, his confidence that love, marriage, and family could be used as weapons against a woman he believed was desperate for acceptance. He never understood me. I had not wanted the Beaumont name. I had wanted a partner. I had not hidden my wealth because I was ashamed of it. I had hidden it because I wanted to know who could respect me without seeing a price tag. Prest failed that test. So did his family. They looked at a black woman in a simple dress and saw someone they could use, dismiss, and humiliate. They believed my silence meant insecurity. They believed my restraint meant weakness. They believed I was standing out the gates of their world, begging to enter. What they never realized was that their entire world was already standing on property I owned. And when the time came, I did not need to scream. I did not need to beg. I did not need to fight for a seat at their table. I simply showed everyone the deed.